haven't liked or subscribed, you're going to be joking me.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Fans View. If you're like me, you're an early, mid-90s wrestling fan, then you're going to share in my excitement today. I've got a man, you may know him as Ahmed Johnson, World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Champion. You might know him as Big T from his time in WCW. But now, he's just Tony Norris, and he's living a normal life, enjoying the fruits of his labor, we hope. Mr. Norris, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, buddy. How about you?
I can't complain. Another day above ground's a good day, right?
Okay, you know that's right.
We're just gonna jump right into it here at the Fans View because I'm not good at small talk. So, I know you've talked about it very sparingly in interviews before, but can you talk a little bit about where you grew up and kind of like what your childhood was like as a young boy?
Well, I grew up in Kokomo, Indiana, and Lake Alfred, Florida. And my childhood, brother, was a nightmare. I'm serious. Being nightmares were made up. I had a father who, for some reason, was real abusive. I mean, to the point, to one time, I even got hot boiling water poured on my stomach. Yeah, and my stomach started bubbling up. My skin started bubbling up, and so he ran the tub full of cold water and put me in it. And when he did, the bubbles started popping, and there was layers of skin floating on the top of the water. That's just one of the many stories, brother. So I had a very traumatic childhood.
Wow, I never heard. Wow, I never heard that. That's unfortunate. I'm so sorry to hear that. So that I guess would explain my next question. I know before professional wrestling, before all that, you actually had some background in the military, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I graduated most distinguished undergraduate. That's top of the class, and it was sad because in the auditorium it was jam packed with people's families and stuff. And here I am. I didn't have not one person there, but I didn't know that I was graduating top of the class. I mean, I outscored everybody on the PT, the aptitude test, the agility test, everything. And sniper weapon, everything, man. I outscored everybody on all going, but they didn't tell you that during the course. They don't tell you what your score is or where you placed. They don't tell you the graduation. And here's the graduation time, and they announce people, second place person get this, third person this, first place person get this. But then at the end of the night, they announce the most distinguished undergraduate, which is top dog.
Right.
And I got that honor, man, and it's one of the biggest honors that I could ever have. It was so funny when they announced most distinguished undergraduate Tony Norris. I'm looking around for another Tony Norris to stand up. I didn't know it was me. I really, truly did. I was looking around for another Tony Norris, and it was me.
Wow.
And military career was outstanding, man.
That is awesome. See, you learn something new every day. I had no idea that you had served. That is, wow. So, I guess the next question would be the natural question. When we know you from wrestling, when did you catch that wrestling bug? Were you a fan as a child, or was that something you kind of got into, as a result of obviously you were athletic and your physique being in the military? Was that just a product of that, or was it a childhood love of yours?
Well, I used to watch it as a kid a little bit. I remember Dick the Bruiser and Crusher and you know, and my favorite wrestler of all time back then was Ivan Koloff. I love Ivan
The Russian
Koloff,
Bear.
man. I mean Nikita, not
Well,
Ivan, Nikita Koloff.
oh, Nikita.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was a
Okay.
big fan of Nikita Koloff. And
All right.
then I kind of got away from it, you know, kind of grew out of it. And I met Stevie Ray from Harlem
Right.
Heat.
Right.
And Ivan Putski opened up a school here in Houston on Derry Ashford. And Stevie was going to the school, and he asked me would I come to the school with him, you know, and go through it with him. And at first I was like, man, I don't want to do no wrestling. But then I changed my mind, you know, it was my boy Stevie. And I was like, yeah, I'll go to school with you. So me, him, and Booker T ended up going to Ivan Putski school. And we all graduated from the same school, and you know, it's been uphill since then.
I can completely understand that. So, and this even adds another layer to my question. If you were tight with Booker and Stevie, and obviously they ended up in WCW, starting their careers. What brought you to the WWF? How did that come about?
Well, I had a match at the Sportatorium. I know you remember old Sportatorium.
Yes,
I had a
sir.
match with the Freebirds,
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
yeah, and I'm walking down the aisle. You know, the Freebirds are already in the ring. I'm walking down the aisle to the ring, and some drunk jerk comes over the rail, full with tattoos, biker helmet, and this, that, and other, and he hit me in the back. But I thought it was one of the boys playing a ha-ha on me. So when I turned
Right.
around, I'm looking at this biker all tattooed up. I hit him, man. I hit him so hard, man. It's like you could hear the crack, like thunder in
My
his
God.
jaw. And I got to the ring, and Michael Hayes and Freebird just laughing their asses off, man. They were just laughing. And then we had the match, a very good match. And when I got done and went back to the locker room, Michael Hayes said, man, you need to be in WWF. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, that's great. I would like to be in WWF. He said, I'm going to get you in WWF. And I was like, well, you know, I've
Wow.
heard that before, you know, from other people.
Right.
And brother, he did it. Michael Hayes is the one that got me in WWF. He got me up there.
Wow. So what was the process like back then? Because obviously these kids come in now, they go to the performance center, and then they
Yes.
get called up to what's called the main roster. But I mean, doing my research, you didn't spend much time in developmental, did you? You were kind of with the big boys, from the start, no?
Yeah, I just got, you know, sucked into it. I was such a great athlete until it wasn't difficult for me to do.
Right.
And
Right.
like I said, and Michael Hayes noticed that, and he got a tape and sent it up there to Vince. And next thing I know, I get a phone call from Vince McMahon. But I don't think it's Vince McMahon. I thought it was one of my friends playing a joke on me. So I was rude to him, man. I was like, he asked me questions. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah. He said, well, he's laughing. And he said, I'll have you a ticket there tomorrow morning. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And kind of hung up the phone. He didn't hang up, I hung up on him. And then the next morning, he knocked at the door and it was UPS with a first class ticket to Stamford, Connecticut. And I'm like, what? Oh my God, that was Vince McMahon. And I got there and he started laughing when he seen me, and I just apologized to him like 100 times. I'm so sorry, I didn't know it was you. And he just laughed it
That's
off.
good. That's fantastic. That might be the best signing story I've heard. Um, so you got to WWF in 95, late 95, I want to say. But by May of 1996, you already made history for the first time in your WWF career, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But you actually won the first ever and maybe the only Kuwait Cup in Kuwait
Yes.
City. Do you have any memories of that tournament specifically, or any overseas tour stories for us?
Oh man, I really don't have any great stories, but I loved it when I won the Kuwait Cup, man. It was like you said, it was the first one and the last one. And
Right.
you know, I had to fight Steve Austin. I beat Steve Austin, Triple H, and Owen and Farouk, and then I made it to the top. And it was just great, man. It was unbelievable. And one story I have is when I was in Kuwait, I was in my room and my phone rings and it's one of the agents. And they like, Ahmed, I need you to come down to the lobby right away. I'm like, for what? He said, just get down here. So I get out to the lobby, man, and one of the sheiks, one of the high, like, praised
Right.
people, and he's there, man, with like 10 bodyguards around him. I look outside, there's like 8 police cars in front, 8 police motorcycles in the back. And he's like, I'm
Wow.
I would love for you to come with me for a minute. I didn't know where we were going. And he took me to the mall, and the mall was jam-packed with
Right.
cars. And I'm like, looking at him, and I said, your people must really love you. He said, no, they're not here for me. They're here for you. And when I got off
Wow.
that limousine, there was one guy, man, on his hands and feet, crawling, trying to touch me. He just wanted to touch, my jeans.
Right.
And so they were beating him back with sticks, and I told the cops to ease up on that. I'm all about that. They can touch me, whatever
Yeah.
they want to do. So we go inside the mall, and there's nobody inside the mall except for the shop owners. They didn't allow nobody in to let you own one of the shops. And
Right.
man, they started giving me blankets, golden rings, everything. When I left out there, I
Wow.
had to give some of it away because I had 2 months to claim at the duty station. So I had to give some of it away. But yeah, they
Wow.
showered me with gifts, man. It was unbelievable.
That is amazing. That's fantastic. You just mentioned when you were talking about that tournament, you named a who's who of WWE royalty. At that time, 95, 96, 97, during your heyday, you had the likes of Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, Shawn, Undertaker. Who were some of your favorite people to work with during that time, during your WWF run?
You know who my number one person was to work with? Was Vader.
Really?
Yes, because
Not many people say that.
I was stiff and he was stiff. And I
Yeah.
remember before our match, Vader came back to the locker room and sat next to me, and he was like, "Brother, I'm gonna lay him in there on you." And I'm thinking he's joking, you're not gonna lay him on me, and he ain't gonna do that to me, like I see him do jobbers like that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not gonna lay it on me. He's just joking. The first hit he gave me in the ring, brother, it was one of them, how he does them punch things.
Yeah.
He rung my bell, man. And I was like, oh, okay, this is the kind of match you want to have. So we was bumping each other, man, and shooting on each other the whole match. But what I liked about it was we did it with respect for each other. We didn't try to
Right.
kill each other, but
Right.
you knew that you were hit.
Right.
And we got to the back, man, and I told him that was one of the greatest matches I've had.
Wow. Yeah, people definitely, when they talk about Big Leon, they definitely talk about him being stiff.
Very stiff.
I guess I don't want to be too negative today on the show, but I have to ask, on the flip
Uh-huh.
side of that, is there anybody that you just did not enjoy working with?
Well, I would say Jeff Jarrett. And
Yeah.
not that it was Jeff Jarrett's fault, it was my fault because I was green. I'm not putting the blame on Jeff, I'm putting the blame on me. I was green, and I don't think Jeff was willing to teach me, or work with me like he should with a guy there that's green. So
Right.
that was I hated having to fight him because he wouldn't help me,
Right.
teach me in the ring.
Yeah, so that's definitely understandable, obviously. Um, this is something that I couldn't wait when I knew we were going to do this interview. I could not wait to ask you because 96, I was like 7 years old. So this still sticks out in my head as a wrestling fan. One of your most memorable moments is you're on a gurney, Gold Dust gives you mouth to mouth, and you go berserk. I mean, you're busting through doors. You scared the ever-loving hell out of 7-year-old Jarrett. Let me tell you, babyface or not, it's so impactful that here we are 30 years later, and it still made an impression.
Well, that's the number one
Can
thing
you
people talk
talk about? Yeah, absolutely. It's so iconic. You have the gold paint around your mouth, and it's
Mhm.
just, oh my goodness. Can you talk to us about that whole shoot and that day and what went into that? Was that live or did you guys film that ahead of time?
No, brother, that was a live shoot, and we had practiced it
Wow.
beforehand. And what Goldust was supposed to do was put his hand over my mouth like this and
Right.
kiss his hand. But he knew it was
Right.
live TV, and he knew there was nothing I could do about it. So he kissed me for real. And I was
Oh
like,
my
"You
God.
son of a bitch!" Which I got off this journey. I will not find you. I got off this journey, and so that's why I was so fired up. There was so much intensity in me.
Yeah.
And when I got to the back, he had already gotten his car and left the building. But I mean, I love Goldust to death, man. He's a hell of a worker, man. One
Yeah,
of the best.
absolutely.
I don't think he gets
And
his
still
flowers,
going.
man.
Yeah, and still going. So did that shoot go other than Goldust kind of ribbing you and kissing you directly when he wasn't supposed to? Did everything else in that shoot kind of go the way it was planned, like with the door spot with Bob Holly, and all that stuff?
Yeah, but the thing is, I had no intention on picking Bob Holly up like I did with one hand. And
Right.
nobody thought I could either. I think I was just that fired up. And
That
poor
is
Bob Holly, man, I picked Bob up, and I love Bob Holly. He's a good worker. I picked him up, and singing Swallow and just, the rest of the story kind of went from there.
yeah.
But that
I mean,
and
iconic.
when Owen
Iconic.
hit me with the cast, that
Uh-huh.
knocked me out, he hit me for real because it was my fault because I was too far out. And he
Right.
jumped off the third rope and he had to really jump. And he lost control of the cast and it really did hit me in the head. It didn't knock me out, but it hit me in the head.
Right.
And
Wow.
it cracked Owen's cast. But yeah, man,
Wow.
that was something else.
I mean, you can't talk about the Ahmed Johnson character and not talk about that moment. It's almost synonymous with you.
Yeah.
Um,
Most
so
people try to
I'm
avoid
kind of
it because
glad
they think
Goldust
I'd
did
get
what he
mad at
did.
them. Huh?
Yeah, I'm glad that Goldust or Dustin kind of did what he did because I mean that visual with the yellow paint on your mouth and everything was just it really made that segment.
Right.
Speaking of Dustin and the Goldust character, obviously I think your lasting legacy, at least in WWF, if not all of professional wrestling, is you were the first African American man to hold a championship title in the WWF.
Yes, sir.
Of course, that happened at the 1996 King of the Ring. You beat Goldust for the Intercontinental title. What did it mean to you at the time to make history like that? Excuse me. And now, with 30 years of hindsight, does it mean more to you even now?
It means the world to me. To become the first African American champion that Vince and them trusted to carry a title. But to me, a lot of guys were passed up. Like I think Junkyard Dog should have had a title. I think Kamala should have had a title. Then you got Big Ernie Ladd, Bubba Brazil, all these guys. And I end up the one being the first African American with the title, which was unbelievable, man.
Yeah. So after winning that IC belt, obviously you shot up the card for Ahmed Johnson. The sky was the limit. I think you even won a battle royal, and we're about to get a WWF like big belt title
Yeah,
match right after SummerSlam. But then unfortunately you were sidelined with some kidney issues, I believe. Can you talk
right.
a little bit about that time in your career and what was going on?
Well, Farouk is the one who ruptured my kidney.
Oh
That first
God.
time you guys seen Farouk and he ran out and kicked me, he
Mm-hmm.
he literally tried to hurt me. We talked about it later, and he said he was jealous because he's been in business for
Long
15,
time.
16 years, and here I was hadn't even been in business a full year yet, and they wanted to put the strap on me. So Farouk is the one who kicked me in the kidney, ruptured my kidney, and it healed up great. It was, one of the moments you look back on, and kind of upset about what he did, but I
Yeah.
understand him being jealous.
Yeah. That's definitely one of those what if moments, because unfortunately after that it felt like we never got back to where we were, because man, you were red hot. I mean,
True.
that's unfortunate. Upon your return, though, speaking of Ron Simmons, when you came back, you got the opportunity to feud with the Nation. Um, what was it like to work with those guys that were in the Nation at the time? You had Ron, you had Charles Wright, you had a young Dwayne Johnson. Um, do you have any fun stories from that time and maybe your feud with the Nation? Or any or more so, what was it like also to see that young Dwayne Johnson at that time in his career blossom into what we now know as The Rock?
Well, it was working with Nation, working with Fruit was really fun because once again, me and him could hit each other hard with respect after he got over his little jealousy. And working with The Rock, I beat Rock 4 times. He never beat me once. I think I'm the only guy he never beat. And I beat him 4 times.
I
And
love that.
when he was Dwayne Johnson, man, he was really, really cool. But as he started becoming a Rock, you could see the change in the attitude.
Right.
It kind of got to his head, I believe, a little bit.
Yeah. I've definitely heard that in some interviews, that maybe kind of started to let the superstardom go to his head a little bit.
Yes.
Worked himself into a shoot.
Oh, yeah.
So unfortunately, it wasn't too terribly long after this, maybe a year or so after this, that you ultimately, left the WWF. And it's always been said that it was due to family issues, and maybe there was some racism viewed, backstage.
Yes.
What do you think would you consider your reason as leaving the WWF at that time?
Well, my baby sister got sick with cancer. So it was traumatic. Your baby
Yeah.
sister, and it was traumatic. And then I was fine, but they want to do this angle with the Truth Commission, which I
Right.
love the Truth Commission. They were great workers, but they want to do this angle where they hung me from a rope, and I was like, that's going a little too far for me as far as racism go, because the history of black men being hung
Yeah.
slaves and being hung with ropes, and
Yeah.
my great
Yes,
great
sir.
great grandfather was hung in Tallahassee, Florida. And that just got a little bit too out the
Too
book for
far.
me.
Yeah. That absolutely makes sense. Um, so after your WWF run, of course, you end up landing in WCW. Unfortunately, you landed in WCW at a point where I think Tony Schiavone said it best. It was kind of a coffin on wheels. Um,
Hmm.
what do you remember from your time in WCW? I mean, you did get to hook back up with Stevie Ray and Booker, and you got to form Harlem Heat 2000. You had a little bit of fun, it seemed like. But what was your biggest takeaway from your brief time in WCW?
Well, first of all, I had no business going to WCW at that time because I was out of shape. I was hadn't been in the ring for a while, and I knew it. I knew I wasn't in wrestling shape. But Stevie Ray kept asking me, "Come on, man, just tag with me, just tag." And that's my boy. And so I couldn't tell him no, man. So I told him, "Yeah, I'll do it." But I was at my worst.
Yeah.
I was at my worst on WCW. But one thing about WCW guys, they don't talk shit behind your back like the WWF guys did.
Right.
WCW guys were, I mean, they were strong and cool, and they helped me out, which never happened in WWF. WWF, nobody helped me out but one person, and that was Razor Ramon. Razor Ramon would watch my matches, and when I get done with my match, he'd be behind the curtain and he would call me over to the side and say, "This didn't look good. This did look good. Do more of this, less of
Right.
this." Razor was the only one that wanted to help me out. Everybody else was just jealous that, this greenhorn coming here didn't
Right.
become the first African American champion, and that didn't sit right with a lot of them. Even till today,
Yeah.
it doesn't sit right with a lot of them.
Right. Yeah. So WCW at that time wasn't nearly as political, maybe, as the WWF was.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So to put a bow kind of on your wrestling career, there's three things that I have to ask you. First of all, the quad pads. That was such a unique look for Ahmed Johnson. Where did that come from? The pads high up on your thighs, the way you wore them. I've never seen that before or since.
It reminded me of when I played football, I was always taught to protect my thighs. So that's why I wore the thigh pads up there.
Okay. That's so unique. I've always wondered that, even as a kid. I was like, that's super cool. Secondly, I know you do a lot of conventions, and you get out and you get to meet the fans and stuff. How often do fans like to bring up the video game WWF Warzone? Do they ever bring that up to you?
Oh my God, all the time. All the time. And they're really pissed off that I'm not in these new games. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they make the character, they make an
Yeah.
Ahmed Johnson character and put it in the game. And I've seen some amazing work that they've done putting me in the game. But they're really pissed off that I'm not in the game because, they're like, you were the only intense powerhouse that WWF really ever had.
Yeah.
And then,
It's crazy. I mean, I
me,
think you made it. Yeah. I think you made it in 2 video games. I mean,
yeah,
you were there for 4 years, I believe, 3
yeah.
years.
Well, Vince is mad at me,
It's
so that's why I'm not in the games now, because Vince McMahon is still upset with me for walking off, and he didn't seem to understand that my sister was sick, and it was, that morning I got a call from her doctor that morning, and he told me that she didn't have many days, left on this earth, and
yeah,
that same morning was the morning where he wanted to do the hanging me. And it was too much coming at me at once.
absolutely, absolutely. No, I don't think any person in their right mind would fault you for the path you chose, because unfortunately your sister left us about a week later, didn't she?
Yes. Yes.
That's Vince just being just ignorant to the real world, I do believe. My third question is, do you watch the product today? Are you still a wrestling fan today?
I watch a little bit of it. Every now and then I'll turn to it. But
Do you have any favorites?
not really. I mean,
No.
I don't watch it that intensely to
Right.
have any favorites. But I do watch it every now and then, and I like Bobby Lashley. I like I don't know what the guy's name is. He sounds like Steve Austin to me. His voice does. Man, what's his name?
LA
I can't
Knight?
think of it. That's him. That's him.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
liked him when he was in NXT,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
in the WWF, not so much. I'm WWE. See, I'm still saying WWF. WWE.
It's always going to be the WWF to me too. Don't even
Yes.
sweat that. So after your professional wrestling time, you've kind of laid low since. Like I said, you'll do some convention appearances here and there. Is that something you enjoy doing at this point?
Yes, I'm starting. When I first did it, I didn't think I would enjoy it. That's why. I mean, I had got calls before, way before, asking me to do it, and I kept telling them no, 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 no. Then one day I said, well, I'll go ahead and give it a try. And I enjoy talking to the fans, man. There's nothing more I like more than talking to my fans, man.
Right. And speaking of things you enjoy, I know that you're a man of the community at this point in your life.
Yes, sir.
I know you do a lot of community outreach. One particular that I know you've mentioned is Save the Streets, a charity that you're invested in now. Can you talk a little bit about, what they do and what they are?
Yeah, Save the Streets is an organization that feeds the homeless, and they go to like boys' homes and girls' homes and mental facilities and talk to them. And it's just a great organization, man. It's not very big, but it's great. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting some of it on the Facebook, so people can see me and they can see exactly what we're doing. And
Right.
it's just an organization I love being part of, man.
That is
Because it
tremendous.
reminds me of me. I wish I had, when I was a kid, I wish I had somebody there that saved me, from all
Right.
the beatings and the hunger and starvation and all the stuff that I was going through. I wish I had somebody that saved me. But
Right.
at that time, it was no Save the Streets.
Right. Well, God bless you for giving your free time and energy and money and
Thank you.
to those kids that really need it. Like you said, you never know
Yes.
who's hurting out there and who needs somebody.
Yes.
There's two things we're gonna bring this thing home. There's two things I love to ask all my guests because I feel like it really gives people an opportunity to know the person inside, not just the performer on the outside. The first thing I have to ask you is, over the span of your life, your career, it doesn't have to be wrestling related, but what's the best piece of advice that someone has given you?
The best piece of advice someone's given me. I think my drill sergeant gave me best piece of advice when he told me to always stay strong, always respect the person in front of me, and never let anything get to me to the point where I can't get rid of it, where it doesn't just roll off my back. And I think
Right.
that's the best advice that I've ever given, because with my intensity and my temper, I could have hurt a lot of people.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
my drill sergeant seen that in me, and he calmed that down in me, and he tested me all the time. So I think my drill sergeant gave me the best piece of advice.
That's definitely universal, and those are fantastic words to live by. And finally, the last question. At this point in your life, wrestling's behind you. You're doing community outreach. As you sit there today, what does the term success, what does success mean to Tony Norris?
Success to me would be to take a kid and bring him up to the level that I was at, and to let them understand that just because you're being abused or you're going hungry or whatever the situation may be, keep on going, man. Keep striding for it. Keep striding for it. And success would be to watch one of these kids go to the pros, football or wrestling, whatever. But that would be my success story.
That is a fantastic answer. And I have to slip one more in for you because obviously this is the Fans View podcast. So I'd love to know, you're not much of a wrestling fan these days, but what are you a fan of? What are you doing in your free time?
Video games. Call of Duty, brother. I'm a
Oh
Call of Duty
yeah.
fanatic.
I
I'm a
love
fanatic
it.
for Call of Duty.
Are
Yeah,
you playing
so
the new Black Ops?
oh yeah, bro. I got them all. I even got the new one that came out. And
I love
I
it.
got a collection of Call of Duty games, man, and I'm just a big kid when it comes down to video games.
I love that. Well, I just want to say again, I opened with it, but I want to thank you so much for taking the time out. I know you're a busy man. I can't thank you enough for stopping by and coming on the
No
podcast
problem.
and talking a little wrestling this evening. Where can people? Is there a website for Save the Streets? Is there somewhere people can go to check that out?
You can go to Instagram, and it's at Ahmed Johnson. I'm sorry, it's at the real Ahmed Johnson
Okay.
on Instagram.
Okay. You heard
And
him,
like I
folks.
said, I'm going to be starting. I got to go speak at a mental facility Thursday, so I'm gonna start filming it and putting it on Facebook and Instagram for people to see, what we do and what's going on with it.
Well, that is awesome. Again, thank you so much for your community outreach, and we appreciate the time here at the
No
Fans
problem,
View.
brother.
And that's all we got this week, folks. So go check out the real Ahmed Johnson on Instagram. Check out Save the Streets. And don't forget, as usual, call your mom. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.